Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Weekend Winners in association with BetVictor. We are back in the studio to preview Northumberland Plate Day from Newcastle. All races live on Sky Sports Racing. We will also be looking at the best of the action from York and the Curragh. Being joined, don't know how he survived Royal Ascot Week. Declan Rix, you have come back from the dead, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, the body's still recovering, hence why I probably sound a bit like Miley Cyrus here. I'm going to break into the song. But yeah, brilliant week, wasn't it? It's
unbelievable.
Like, favourite week of the year. A long week. I've got to say, if you were working at Ascot last week, fair play to you, whether you're broadcasting, production, hospitality, bookmakers on course, stable staff, everyone put in some shift because I slept like a baby Saturday and Sunday and Monday.
You put in some shift though, because the time you were on track in the morning and then to be able to sustain it throughout the day, all of your different hats that you were wearing, not top hats though, and then into the car park in the evening, you know, you balanced it beautifully.
The only reason I was going into the car park was just to stay hydrated.
Oh, it's very important just go and find that water station there. Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
I'm sure it was. Anyway, we had a really good week. Someone else who had a really good week as well was Sam Boswell. Not with us, though, in the studio. Sam, how are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you, Kate. Hiya, Rixie. Yeah, just had a week off, really. So I felt like I'd dial in just to see you guys. The only working commitment this week I've had is to join Weekend Winners. Sadly, the only thing I'm suffering with is a dangerous bout of seconditis after last weekend's tips, which is never great to have. So fingers crossed we can go one better this week.
Hopefully so, but yeah, there were so many seconds, but we had plenty of winners though to boot, and good to see you again, Sam, and thank you very much for joining us, taking the time out then of his week off to come and speak to us.
Wouldn't you love a week, the whole week off after Royal Ascot? I know I would.
We could only dream of such a thing, but we have important business to discuss, finding you some winners this weekend. Before we get into the action though, proper reminder as ever to please do gamble responsibly. Our tips are not guaranteed to win, but we will also do our best to point you in the right direction. Right, on with our first race at Newcastle, the 2:10. This is for Group 3 Chipchase Stakes. 3-year-olds and over 6 furlongs. And a reminder again that all races at Newcastle are live on Sky Sports Racing. So there you go. Company hat has been put back on there, ticking the boxes. So I've mentioned it twice. Rixie, feel free to mention it again whenever you want. Kind of Blue, 11-8 favourite.
11-8, yeah, the race definitely revolves around him, isn't he? Obviously a Group 1 winner, but I'm just not sure I want to take 11-8. You know, this is his comeback at the start of this season. We've got to be kind to the horse, haven't we? I think the starter done him a dirty.
Yeah.
Done him a dirty. Yeah. So he was rolling around in the stalls and then he was slowly away and that was race over. But maybe I'm being a little bit harsh. I probably wanted to have seen a little bit more still. So he's running in this race now. On Saturday, he's got a Group 1 penalty. The other thing that I don't like about as well, now coming into this season, this would have been absolutely Wathnan's number 1 6 furlong horse. I think that's fair to say. But he clearly hasn't been going well in the winter or the spring because Wathnan went out and they bought Lazat and then they went out and bought Flora Bermuda as well. The 1-3 on last week on Saturday, and just everything about him now is just suggesting to me that, you know, he's not where they want him to be, and I wonder now, could this be another race which is a building block maybe to something like the July Cup? So I'm willing to take him on, especially at the prices.
You make a very good point there about Wathnan and the fact that they did go out and buy Lazat and Flora Bermuda as well there, when, like you say, he was clearly the leading sprinter at that point. He's a Group 1 winner, hence why he's having to give away this £7 penalty. You're going to take him on then, with whom? Yeah,
I'm going to take him on with an all-weather specialist in Ferris, and I'm actually quite keen on this horse because it's going to be interesting to see how the market goes, because we could get a good value bet here. The market is going to be really interesting around Kind of Blue, but I love what he did this day at Newcastle. I think it's a run you can upgrade as well. He was drawn wide, out on the wing, got no cover. It was a race run on the front end, probably evenly enough, but maybe just on the steady side. And he's run down the runner-up with a complete run of the race. And, you know, this is a career best. But his all-weather record reads 2-1-1-5-1-1-1. And this was the last one, and it was a career best record. the Channon team are currently operating at a 39% strike rating. I like him. I'll have a strong each-way bet on him now, especially in the market there. You've got other horses who've got question marks like Alan Abbey dropping in trip, first-time blinkers. I love a bit of Spy Catcher, but he's a 7-year-old now. And yeah, I just think he's a good, solid knocking each-way bet now. I just hope he's held up gets a bit of cover tomorrow and leaves all those horses on the front end beat each other up, because there is a forecast headwind tomorrow. So coming late and fast, that'll do me.
That's the thing, isn't it, that we always have to bear in mind with Newcastle is that headwind. So I am hoping for the same for Ferris as well, where very, very similar thoughts to you, taking on Kind of Blue, where I just don't trust where we are with him. I could be massively forgiving for Shanti last time out because of the starter. I know that he was himself the horse getting restless in the stalls, but the starter should never have let them go. James Doyle did unbelievably well just to stay in the plate at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was willing to take him on as well, especially at the prices.
And the other thing we've got to mention is Watson obviously did really well in the race, but he wasn't even declared at Royal Ascot. So you've got a Group 1 winner not going to Royal Ascot, so that's the other thing as well.
Yeah, exactly. And also, when he's taking on all-weather specialists, and it is very specialist, the fact that Ferris is an all-weather specialist, he's 5 from 7 on the all-weather, rather than 2 for 11 with his record on the turf. As you just said there, including this course and distance last time out, Class 2 handicap, showing that he just continues to improve with his racing, landing the hat-trick in the process, gutsy attitude. And as we just saw there, the fact he was drawn in stall 2, it meant that he had to challenge out on the wing. So challenging wider than ideal, I think that makes him pattern calibre now anyway. So the pair of us two then with Ferris.
Is this going to be a trawler when we're all three of us on the same horse?
Oh, our three. Is that the only horse all three of us actually tipped up all in agreement? I think it might have been with Trawlerman last week. So that was landed. I'm going to give us 100%, Sam. Are you going to join us?
I'm not. I'm going to leave that 100% record to remain intact for a while longer, hopefully. I think you make fair points. Obviously, the favourite... listen, there's a lot of respect to be had about James Fanshaw's runner, but I do think if you like the horse, you'll probably end up with a slightly bigger price. I can see a drift coming here because I think naturally you see a horse that short and all of us are trying to find perhaps some each-way angles into the race, and Ferris, respect the argument there completely, but it's another horse I like at a bigger price that I'll be playing each way in here, and it's Fair Angelica, a really interesting 4-year-old for Richard Hughes. Richard's going really nicely at the moment, ticking over really well, and I suppose this horse appeals to me for a couple of different reasons. We'll watch probably back here the Deauville run over 7, but it's the fact that the horse has run twice over 6 furlongs, winning last time out, beating Zoom Zoom at Salisbury, and then I think it was the debut at Kempton over 6. 100% record over 6 furlongs. I think that's going to be the key here, coming back down in trip is certainly where they want to keep this horse. Form on the artificial surface, she needs to take a step forward again, but I'd say that unexposed nature over the trip is what's kind of holding me in good stead. Clearly in good form as well, the yard going nicely. I felt at double-digit price, she was just a massive price each way to play here against a favourite that I could happily leave alone and see win. And if we could pick up a second or third with Fair Angelica, I'm happy enough. And who knows, maybe get the lot if we end up winning.
Yeah, there you go then, Fair Angelica.
And our friends at BetVictor have even got a betting without Kind of Blue market if people want to get involved.
Yes, that is a very good point as well. That's been a really interesting market to pay attention to as well. I've been looking at that, and plenty of these have been shortening up then with that as well. But we're all taking on Kind of Blue at the head of the market. Ferris for Declan and Fair Angelica at 12-1 for Sam. Do let us know in the comments section below who you fancy for the Chipchase Stakes as we move on to the 3:15. This is, of course, the big betting race of the weekend, also known as the Pitman's Derby, the Northumberland Plate handicap, heritage handicap, 3-year-olds and over 2 miles. Last year's winner, one smooth operator, back to defend his crown. And speaking of a smooth operator, Sam, who takes your eye?
Oh,
Kate, fiver in the post for you. Lovely. Yeah, this market really sort of came to life sort of post-draw, obviously. I think for a while we'd had sort of Willie Mullins' horse as clear favourite. Jamie Spencer remains in my kind of bad books after last week at Royal Ascot, when a backed one of his and just failed to get up on the line. But listen, you can't hold that against him. Be very interested to see
I can't hold, you won't hold it against him, but you clearly are.
Yes, clearly.
I will.
But I don't think the draw's done William Mullins' runner too many favourites in one. I think, conventionally, if you look back through the record books, since this has gone, especially onto the all-weather, a higher draw certainly of benefit, and that's where Who's Glenn's ended up, that I think could well go off favourite here. But One Smooth Operator's got it all to do. I think that mark's just going to be a little bit too challenging. But the horse I felt was an excellent play in here is a horse that is still seemingly, even though we talk about him quite a lot, relatively unexposed, I think it's fair to say, in comparison to a few in here in terms of how often we've seen him on the flat. And that's Zanabad for Tony Martin. This horse seems to just pop up, doesn't he, in these kind of races, gets very well talked about, and then just maybe comes up a little bit short, but off a mark of 92 again, that was what he ran off at Chester, which I thought was obviously a great run behind Zoffy going back to May last year. Had a reappearance at the Curragh, that was over 1 mile 6, which just isn't a trip far enough to see him at his best. I'm convinced he can go really, really well here. Interesting yard booking. Jim Crowley's only ridden once for Tony Martin before, and he won, so 100% strike rate from a very small sample. But what we a mark of 93 here, I'm just convinced that there is a big race in this horse. Maybe it won't come in this particular renewal of the race, but 12-1, drawn in 15. I thought there was enough to like about him to make a strong enough case that he's a great each-way dart in a race where you're getting your extra places.
You make a great case. Hopefully I can further bolster it because I am with him as well.
You're both with the same horse here.
Yeah, Zanabad for the pair of us. And he is, as Sam said there, he's just such a tricky horse to actually get right. He just doesn't win, does he? But he keeps running massive races in these sorts of contests. And he's going to pop up one day, and I don't want to be without him on that day. Hopefully it is this. But of course, I ran Tracey's trends against this race. Now, for all that 4-year-olds are dominating the head of the market here, 6- and 7-year-olds are actually the age bracket you want to be with, rated between 93 and 99. A middle to high draw is optimal, mid-division to held up running style. 1 run ideally in the season, and ideally that horse finished second last time out or first in a handicap. And 11 to 18 days since the last run is also optimal. So Zanabad is ticking a whole load of boxes. Tony Martin, Jim Crowley in the plate, dual purpose performer in here. But as Sam said there, he ran back on the flat last time out at Curragh over 1 mile 6, Premier handicap. 7th, running off the same mark that he's running off here. £1 lower than when he finished 6th of 20 as the 9-2 favourite in the Ascot Stakes. Now, this was at Royal Ascot last year over 2 mile 4. And he was all the rage in the betting because of how unlucky he had been on his previous start coming into this race. Everyone spotted that, and as I said, he was sent off as a 9-2 favourite. But just look at the way he travelled up to this point. Then he just weakened out of things inside the closing stages there, just when he was getting to the sort of 1.5, 2 furlong pole. And then he just starts to wilt at this point. So the 2 mile 4 looked a bit far for him then. I'm hoping that this drop back in trip will see him to optimal effect. And I also agree that he is very well treated. So there you go. Zanabad for Sam and I. Are you going to complete the 100% record?
I'm not. No, I'm gonna ditch as well because I'm swinging for the fences in this race. I'm with the outsider of the whole field here.
Ooh.
Imperial Sovereign at 66-1. I think he's hugely interesting now. He was formerly trained by Carl Burke, formerly owned by Sheikh Obeid, considered good enough to run in the Linkfield Derby trial, and this day considered good enough to run at Royal Ascot and the Queen's Vase. But as you can see there, he was slowly away. He was last leaving the gates, and you can see the winner, Illinois, is sitting up in the van. This is him off the home bend. I think he was still quite raw. You can see there he just ran off the bend, and look, he just didn't have the pace or the class to go in and win a Group 2 race like this. Illinois has obviously gone on to boost the form, hasn't he? And look, I just think there's enough in there. The other thing as well, he's already won around Newcastle as a young horse for Carl Burke, and he's run well at Kempton as well on the all-weather, so he's got good form on the all-weather. Now, he has joined Philip Kirby, and they didn't pay, consider the horse is rated in the mid-90s, they didn't pay a lot of money for him, which would worry you, and you're always worried like a trainer like Carl Burke and an owner like Sheikh Obeid getting rid of such a well-bred horse, because this horse is by Frankel. He's from the family of Ream 3, who's just an incredible mare who's thrown so many good horses. Cape Byron, I think, Triple Time, all those horses, Ostilio, an incredible family. So it's a bit of a worry that they're moving him on, but his debut run for Philip Kirby at Haydock a few weeks back was really encouraging. For a start, I thought he settled quite well. He could have been a little bit gassy. Looks like he's grown up. And he just shaped a lot better than the distance beaten. It looked like he needed the race quite badly. And the time and the sections of that race were very good. There was stress-free, won it of David O'Mara's. And it was the same day as Strange, I think, won that race over the same course and distance. And the time and the sections were really good. I think it's strong handicap form. The other thing as well, he was down the rail for a lot of the race up the straight. And I think that was the slowest part of the track. So he didn't disgrace himself. Given he was 100 to 1, he ran quite well. Now, he needs to prove he stays this trip, but Carl Burke has always had him down as a stayer when he had him. But I could just see if he's in good order, I can see his class bringing him into the race, deep into the race. And if he stays, he'll give Safi Osborne a good spin at like 66 to 1. So it'll be interesting to see how the market goes. I was interested in him in the Copperhouse handicap at Royal Ascot last week at a big price. He was declared for that but didn't get into the race. So it looks like he's fit and ready to go. And I remember thinking last week I was worried about the Philip Kirby yard not being in great order, but they've had a winner recently as well. So I just think he shouldn't be a 66 to 1 shot. He's a class horse if he's over problems and he's in good order.
Outsider of the entire field.
Yeah.
We were talking to Safi Osborne quite regularly last week, weren't we?
Yeah.
At Royal Ascot. So maybe you just got a little note then at that point. Who knows? But
we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Safi, the queen of the staying race. She's already won the Chester Cup, so hopefully she can add this one as well.
Very true. 66 to 1 then for Imperial Sovereign for Deck as the outsider of the field. Again, do let us know in the comment section below who you fancy for the Northumberland Plate as we move up to York now for the 225, the Group 3 Criterion Stakes. 3-year-olds and over 7 furlongs. York's feature for the weekend. So this race, of course, moving from Newmarket. Lake Forest making a swift return after finishing 5th in the Queen Anne last week, Deck.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is a good little race. As you say, it switched from Newmarket up to York. A nice race for the track to get, and some really good horses in here. Lake Forest, people will know plenty about. Prague, friend of the show, Letha Levi's back for more.
On number 1.
There we go. Nostrum is now with the David O'Mara team. So room service. You know, we know an awful lot about these horses. There's plenty of pace on here. Letha Levi in 5, Quinn Alton 6, Prague in 7, and maybe even Nostrum in 8 will push forward. But look, I like Lake Forest, and I think he's definitely the most likely winner in here, but I just wonder are him and Both Form a little bit short in the market, and I think this Paribus is really interesting now, and we're continuing the theme of Wathnan Racing, because this is another horse that they've picked up, and this was him 2 starts back at winning at Southwell. That's him in the orange in front there. Still on the bit, going to probably a furlong and a half here. But watch this now, once he's given a squeeze, given a nudge, watch how he quickens and picks up. He puts this field to bed really, really quickly and is bolted up. And you'll see him here now when he hits the line, his ears are pricked. Now, that was off a rating of 90, but subsequent to this run, he went to Thirst to win a little conditions race, and he won well again there. And that race is a little hard to read. It's there are if you wanted to be really positive about that form, you could say it's right up there with anything the favourite's done, which is interesting. But like, I always like to take more of a negative slant and make these horses work for their marks. But even a dim view of that form suggests he doesn't have an awful lot to find with the favourite. And given he's a big raw horse, I was just reading back through an Ed Bethel stable tour and at the races.com last year. He said he's a big raw horse, and even he said last year he's a better horse than Mickley, who obviously went to win the Britannia. So, you know, that form, he's clearly a good horse. But what we've seen in his 2 runs this season, it looks like he's just really grown into himself, grown into that frame, picked up by Wathnan Racing. The race is really going to set up for him. So I think he's a sport and play against some of the horses there to the head of the market.
They don't pick bad ones.
They don't.
Really...
It helps when you've got deep pockets, but they've done an incredible job last week.
It does, but there aren't too many duds in there at all, are there, for what Wathnan do? So, yeah, they've got a brilliant team who analyse these horses and expect to get more out of them as well. So you are hoping that will continue. And the Wathnan theme continues for Rixie. Sam, who do you like?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't this race obviously moving, as you've alluded to, Kate, and I think it's a cracker, actually. I think it's really good. And from a betting perspective, I quite like the fact we've got Lake Forest in here, because you can make a strong, cogent argument for William Haggis's horse, but I just think it's a quick turnaround. Obviously, there's something nagging at me that I can leave it at around 13 to 8. I can let it win. I was going through it, and I maybe I've lost my marbles a bit, but I thought Nostrum was just overpriced. I was trying to find an angle into the race each way, which was a bit of a struggle. But I went back through Nostrum's form, and I kind of initially thought, oh, is it going to be too quick, the ground by Kingman? But actually, the better form for this horse seems to have come on a sounder surface, has left Sir Michael Stoute, and for whatever reason, everything that's left his yard has improved. I think that's the brutal reality of the stats. That's what you need to look at here, rather than sentiment. David O'Mara having a little bit of a quieter time than perhaps I'd like at the moment, but if there's a little bit of support for this horse, I'll be really intrigued, and it'll only make my confidence grow. I'm only having a very small each way play here against the favourite, but there's bits and pieces of form, and you remember how excited people were about Nostrum in those early days. And I know there's lots of horses that people, you can go back through the quotes, but you read it back, there's a lot to like about this horse. And I just wonder if maybe, just maybe, this could be the year that we kind of get to see a bit more consistency from the horse, who has had sort of bits and pieces between breaks, obviously off the track nearly 300 days, but has run well fresh previously when you go through the record. So it's a tentative small each way play against the favourite here for Nostrum here, and I'm hopeful that David O'Mara can maybe get a bit more improvement out of this horse.
Well, I think in terms of stable switchers, there's probably very few trainers in the country that are better than David O'Mara. He's got a really good record of, he's improved horses from Dermot Weld, I think maybe a couple of horses from André Fabre in France as well. So I'm interested to see how he's going as well. I don't know what it is. He's either brilliant or he's a busted flush. I don't know, but he's definitely good enough to win the race. I think that's fair, isn't it?
Oh yeah, like say that innate ability that we saw from him early on in his career. He's clearly got that to, but I don't know, is he fully wired up right in the head? I don't know with this horse at all, but like Sam said there, we're going to get a true reflection of him. Well, a truer, hopefully, from leaving Sir Michael Stoute's yard. Obviously not going to be sporting with Judgmont Silks anymore. Loads of changes that we've got to go out with Nostrum. So it's going to be fascinating. And he's probably the horse I'm most excited to actually watching this race to see what we're going to get from him. But I'm going to let Sam back him at least anyway, because I'm going to be with Lake Forest here. I've just got to side with him for William Haggis. And I've heard William Haggis likes it at York. I might have been the first person to have uttered that sentence ever. But
someone once said he's a Yorkshire man.
I think I might have just actually have come up with that off the top of my head. So it's... Yeah, we all know that William Haggis absolutely loves York, and with Lake Forest coming here as well. Quick turnaround of 11 days after his great run in the Group 1 Queen Anne Stakes that we're looking at here as the first race, beaten when finishing 5th, just 3 lengths behind Docklands and Rosalian. His first go over a mile as well, and it looked well worth a go after he won the Golden Eagle in Australia over 7.5. And if he just had a stronger pace to run at in this contest, you would have thought he would have finished closer to those in front of him, which is really quite something to say. So naturally you thought, OK, well, connections are going to stick at Amar now. We'll probably see him rock up in the Sussex Stakes or something. But I like the fact that they're going back over his seemingly preferred trip at this stage anyway, or maybe proven rather than preferred, of 7 furlongs. And there's no reason to think that this still isn't his optimal trip. So Frui has the untapped potential over a mile. In connections, I trust, and he sets the standard of those with fitness on side as well.
Yeah, I think Connection said basically he's been turned out quickly because the ground is there. I think he's quite ground dependent, isn't he? The quicker the ground, the better. I think that's it as well. But look, if they're happy to roll the dice, the top team, the horse is in good order.
Exactly, top team in you trust, isn't it? Then, like you say, it is a quick turnaround from a pretty hard race at the top level. So, yeah,
they'll be an even better team if they finish second to my horse.
No, if he manages to get his head back in front again there, even at 7-4, I actually think that's probably a fair price for Lake Forest. Least amount of questions to have to answer in the Criterion Stakes. Do let us know who you fancy for that 7 furlong contest. Now, we are switching over the Irish Sea to the Curragh for the 3:30, the Group 1.
3:30?
It had to be.
You've gone full Irish.
It had to be. For the Group 1 Pretty Polly Stakes, 3-year-olds, there you go, and over 10 furlongs. Now, we have the Oaks runner-up Whirl aiming to give Aidan O'Brien a 6th win in the race, although Aidan has only won one of the last 8 renewals, so Calpana does look a formidable rival. Now heads the betting at 11-8. Here's Sam.
Yeah, this is a really intriguing contest, as you allude to there. Aidan O'Brien's record in the race in recent years, but then, Kate, you look at the Roll of Honour, like Blue Stocking last year, obviously, or she went on to achieve. There's been some fantastic horses here. Hopefully, we've got a really good duel at the front of the betting. And I'd pose this question to the viewers. If, and I know it's a big if Whirl had just come out in front at Epsom rather than second by a neck, would she be favourite? How much shorter would she be in the betting? Because I think the market at the moment isn't disrespecting her, but I think has her just a shade too big. She's obviously going to get loads of weight from the favourite, which is understandable given the age difference. But I just thought that second to Mini Hawk showed, real improvement. The York win was good and came on a solid, sound surface, which is what we're going to get here. I think there's so much to like. A previous winner at the Curragh as well. I just think Whirl is the bet at the moment at the prices, and actually going to be my nap for the weekend. I'm really confident that she will serve it up to Kalpana, who is a hugely exciting horse and should be well respected for Andrew Balding. But I'm siding with the younger horse here.
OK. For the weight concession then, so Whirl getting that. And also revealed his nap as well.
He did,
so
yeah.
Whirl for Sam.
Yeah, like if my granny had wheels, she'd be a bike kind of thing, She finished second in the Oaks. I'm taking her on with the older filly. I think Kalpana's got comfortably the strongest form here. I'm not sure the Oaks form is massively strong, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like, I know the Godolphin filly was back in third and she brought a really high level, but I just get the feeling she did not fire on the day at all. And, the O'Brien filly that was that won the race, Mini Hawk, the form of her Chester win didn't look great, but she's clearly taken a big step forward. So I don't know. I like this form. I like this filly. I like Study of Man. I like Judmont. I like Colin Keane. The price, I think, is just about likeable, because the only thing I'm worried about is the ground getting a bit quick over there at the Curragh, because I do think she's probably... Good ground is fine for her, but, rattling quick ground is probably not what she wants. But look how good she was this day. Just a really progressive, likeable filly. She's bolted up, and then, she did make a lovely seasonal debut behind Los Angeles, didn't she, last time out? Although he let the form down, sadly, at Royal Ascot last week. It was funny, actually. I was going up getting a beer on the Wednesday, right? And there was the kind of girl behind the bar, and she's like, "Oh, you like races?" I was like, "Yeah, I love races." She's like, "I love the horses, but I can't go out and see them." So I told her, right, if you see one horse today, make sure you go out and see Los Angeles. He's beautiful. So then I was in the press room watching the race, and he was in absolute muck sweat. He looked absolutely awful. So sorry to that poor girl. But anyway, the form behind Los Angeles was let down. But look, she's back amongst her own sex here, and the form is there for everyone to see. So I'm keeping it simple with the older filly.
I really thought you were going to go with that story where the girl said that she doesn't get a chance to go out and watch the horse. So I thought you were going to do a switch with her and you were going to work behind the bar and let her go out.
Drinking on the job.
Don't worry, please go see the horses. I'll take care of this. Not at all. I really thought that's where this was going. But Los Angeles, he did get himself into a bit of a state, didn't he? However, the form was boosted to a large extent by Anmart.
Oh, you love a bit of Anmart.
I was on for the winner there, then Ombudsman comes along and should have won by a lot further, to be honest. So that form looks... I don't know. I think you can read it either way. So I'm going to
if I'm being brutally honest, I completely forgot about Anmart.
Good old Anmart. Don't worry, I was with him, so I have not forgotten. But yeah, Kalpana, though, for me as well.
Go on.
It is a tricky race, isn't it? And I know she's having to give away the £12, but as we say time and time again, the weight for age scale is there for a reason, because the 3-year-olds are at a disadvantage because they're not as developed yet, hence why it's there. So it's there for a purpose. It's not as though she's just having to give away £12 to a horse that's of the same ability as her. Maybe she will be in time, but she is not as physically developed or as proven as Kalpana either. So yeah, I am with her as well. And yes, she might well be working towards the Arc, towards the British Champions fillies and mares again on Champions Day. Those races were in the autumn, though. We've got an awful lot of racing to go before then. And she has only had that one start so far this campaign, as you just said there, in the Tattersalls Gold Cup Group 1 contest. We say about the form having the slight mixed messages then, but I'm going to take it through Anmart and hope that the form is very, very solid. And she is proven, whereas I do like Well, but I agree with you, Dec, that I just don't know about this year's renewal of the Oaks. Yeah. It didn't feel the strongest going into it. Loads of salmon doubts about all of them. Well, plenty of them. And I think that was well-founded. So I'm just not sure on the Oaks form. But Sam, I wish you all the best.
No, you don't.
No, I absolutely don't. Not one bit. But the pair of us two, though, with Kalpana to hopefully give the weight away in the Pretty Polly. Do let us know who you fancy. Now, talking of the Curragh, we're going to take an early look ahead to the Irish Derby, which, of course, comes up on Sunday. So we don't have our declarations yet, but the Derby winner himself, Lambourne, 4-5 favourite heading the way, Dec. So is he a play or a lay for you?
I think I'm happy to watch him now. Obviously, I was at Ascot last week and I bumped into a lad I used to work with at Ballydoyle, Eamon. I hadn't seen him in years and years. And he's a fella who, because when I went to work with horses, I never grew up in a horse family or anything. I knew nothing about horses. Basically, just a summer job. My father said, you're getting out of the house, you're not staying here all summer. So I managed to get a job in Ballydoyle. But Eamon taught me so much about horses as an animal, as individuals, as athletes. But anyway, long story short, I bumped into him at Ascot last week. And he said he went to the Derby day with Lambourne and a couple of the Ballydoyle horses, and he couldn't believe how many horses lost the plot before the race. Yeah, like he said, mentality-wise, Lambourne, half of the battle was because he was just rock solid mentally. Yeah. Nothing phases him. He's really lazy. And I thought that was really interesting. So what I was thinking with that is, obviously the combination of the mentality side of things and the track at Epsom as well. If you did fancy a horse in the Derby at Epsom and the horse didn't run its race, I think it's worth giving another shot to it. And I'm actually going to give Pride of Arras another shot here. Yeah. I saw him early. He looked in trouble early now. And when I was watching him run, he really reminded me of the run Cracksman had in the Derby when he ran it as a 3-year-old. Just raw, didn't handle the track. Now, Cracksman ran an awful lot better than he did. But look, he's a big horse. I'm willing to give that York Dante form one more go because he looked brilliant there. So I'm willing to give him another go, especially at the prices now at the moment, because on the back of it, Lambourne's odds on. Sadly, there won't be as big a crowd at the Curragh on Sunday, and that should play into the strengths of plenty of these horses. But not to take anything away from Lambourne, I thought he was very good in the Derby, and Wayne Lorden sent him early, and anytime Wayne asked him a question, he picked up and he answered and he bolted up. But I just think on this different track on a different day, maybe Pride of Arras, that form in the Dante Stakes can come to the fore.
Yeah, I was with Pride of Arras in the Derby as well, wasn't I? And I was never happy at any stage. He looked keen enough early on. He didn't handle the track. And Rafe Beckett, because I had the concerns going into the race that he wasn't going to see out the trip. His trainer, though, Rafe Beckett, he has come on subsequently and said it may not have been the trip, it was probably just more the track than anything else. So, on that basis, it gives you more confidence to side with him again, in the hope that the more conventional track of the Curragh will see him to better effect. But, Lambourne with his mentality, whether or not he's going to need it, hopefully we will get the crowds there on Sunday.
Well, it's something we probably don't talk about enough in how many, we all watch different sports, golf, and remember all the stuff with Rory McIlroy going back a little while ago, and mentality and getting over the line. It's probably a very underrated trait in horse racing, because you need it. If you've lost the plot before the race, you're just not going to win. No,
exactly that. And Lambourne, just looks like a jump horse, doesn't he? Yeah. A national hunt horse.
He's, I don't know what price he is for the Ledger, but he's probably the number one horse you'd have on your mind for the Ledger at the moment, I think.
Yeah. Oh, he's absolutely wonderful, isn't he? And trying to give Aidan O'Brien another winner in the race. It is interesting, though, when you look at Aidan O'Brien's Irish Derby winners. So he's won it 16 times. Now, 5 of Aidan's have done the Epsom Irish Derby double. Sindar in 2000, Harzan 2016 also did the double since the turn of the millennium. But these are his winners then of late, so a whole load of them to go at. The ones who are able to then do the Irish Derby double. So the record is there, Sam. Is Lambourne going to be able to further bolster it?
Yeah, 5-2 to answer Declan's question. Favourite for the St Ledger with ourselves, and that's
all right,
reflected.
That's a bit short.
but it probably shows Declan. There's so many horses that will still play their hand, and personally, I must say, I think you've got to take him on here, haven't you? I think you told everyone about how he probably won the race, or some lost it, we should say, in the parade ring. But he also kind of, if you ran that Derby 100 times, do you think he'll ever have a smoother passage, an easier way of winning a race like that? I just don't think so. I'm not saying he was a fortuitous winner. I just think there was so much that went right. And we returned to a much more conventional track here. For me, I kind of couldn't be playing at odds on. I think I can leave him well alone. And you've alluded to probably the horse that I'd most likely take here, which is Rafe Beckett's Pride of Arras, to give that another go. But I'd make a hat on here. I think at odds on we can take Lambourne on, but it'd be interesting to see. He's going to have more of a race on his hands. I think he won't have it all his own way. I think it's going to be a very different type of race, and I think that could just be the undoing of him, or I'll be proved completely wrong, and that Epsom win will be proved to be very, very solid and a very fair effort.
Yeah, it's tricky to really weigh up, isn't it? Because odds on is very, very short. But at the same time, I would love to see him go and do the double.
And the other thing as well is looks like it's going to be on quicker ground. Now, I didn't see the forecast at the
rained last night, I believe.
Okay.
I believe they were definitely forecast rain last night. I need to check over how much was actually landed. They were forecast it last night, but then, of course, dry day today, dry day Saturday, pretty much in the main. So they were expecting to maybe have to...
Yeah, and that round track on the Curragh that can ride a little bit quicker than the straight track there. So that's another thing you'd maybe have to overcome, although that kind of front-running prominent style that he has for the Curragh Derby track, I think is a big positive, to be fair.
We've seen that come to the fore.
We have.
Yeah. So Lambourne then, a short price favourite for the Irish Derby. Do let us know if you are playing or laying the favourite ahead of the Irish Classic, as Declan and I head over to the Sky Pad to give you our best bets for the weekend. Right, it's crunch time. Our best bets for the weekend. Rixie, you're up first.
Right, first up, we're going to go with Ferris. I like him. I'm going to back him each way. I think he's a cracking each way bet, but I'm also going to back him without the favourite Kind of Blue, because, you know, he is the class act in the field. But I think Ferris will go really well for the informed Jack Shannon team, whose horses are thriving at the moment. The next best, I'm going to give Pride of Arts another shot in the Irish Derby. I just haven't talked to a couple of lads that were at Epsom on the day. A lot of horses lost the plot before the race. Now, he maybe wasn't one of them, but he didn't handle the track. I think you can give him one more chance, especially at the current prices. So I'm hoping everyone will be seeing Ross O'Ryan's Arras as he goes clear. And then the long shot's going to be Imperial Sovereign in the Northumberland Plate. Look, he's a horse with an awful lot of back class. Now with Philip Kirby, I just think 66 is too big a price if he's in good order. I saw enough in his run at Haydock last time out to give him a chance. He's won at Newcastle, he's got form in the all-weather, and if he stays, I think he will run an awful lot better than 66s.
Nicely done, tastefully done as well, as always, Rixie. Sam, follow that.
Yeah, difficult act to follow as ever, Mr. Rix. Right, let's start with my nap, where I'm taking you two on. I know you like Kalpana, but I'm just going to give Well the chance to take another step forward. Second, obviously, at Epsom in the Oaks. She gets a huge concession of weight, which will be helpful. Now, I've just had a little look at the weather radar, and the weather arguably is going to be more helpful to Kalpana, but she did win on soft ground over a mile, so I don't think it's going to be a massive inconvenience if they get slightly more rain than was possibly forecast. So, Well, for me, will hopefully take a step forward against her elders and put Kalpana in her place. My next best, should we go to the Northumberland Plate? Because I do think it's a wide open race this year, but I'm really, really keen that Zandabad can hopefully get his head in front for Tony Martin. Looks well handicapped. We saw Tracey's trends earlier in the show, tick the box as well, which is a massive plus point. So I'll make him my next best. And then the long shot this week, I'm going to go Fair Angelica. I think Richard Hughes' horse is really one to keep an eye on. I just feel like the favourite could be vulnerable in the Chipchase, and at 12 to 1 I think we are at the moment. I think she's a cracking each way bet. Has formed the 6 furlongs, definitely I think is going to be her trip. The all-weather surface is no issue as well. So those would be my 3 for this week. Very best of luck. Kate, who do you fancy?
So I agree with one selection for each of you in your best bets, but not for my nap though. Archivist it's going to be in a race that we haven't discussed in the main part of the show. Comes up at York at 1:55. This is the 0 to 90 Dubai Mile handicap, funnily enough, over a mile. He is now 11 to 10 favourite. He was the bigger price beforehand, but I wouldn't be surprised if that went odds on, to be honest, nearing the offer. Archivist, he's a really smart horse. We spoke about the stable switches from Sir Michael Stout earlier on, and it doesn't feel that comfortable saying it out loud, really, does it? But the stats haven't been lying. Plenty of horses have been improving since leaving the Stout yard, and William Haggis seems to have already improved this lad in 2 starts, resulting in a first career win last time out at Leicester. He was due to go to Royal Ascot in the Golden Gates, but he would have looked very well in as well, because the yard actually said he's probably going to be their best chance if he goes there. Didn't get in. Comes here instead, so he still looks well treated, £4 higher. So Archivist to win again for me. Then Ferris, it's going to be in the Group 3 Chipchase Stakes at 13 to 2. I just don't fully trust Kind of Blue, for all that he is clearly the best horse in the race, the Group 1 Champion Sprint Stakes winner, but I'm not about to take that price about him. Instead, I prefer the price and the chances about Ferris. for the all-weather specialist, and he is clearly one of those. 5 from 7 on the all-weather, including this course and distance last time out. He looks up to Pat and company now, and Zandabad it is. I know that Sam's gone for him as his next best bet. I've gone for him as a long shot, so it feels like a bit of a stitch-up job on that basis, but at 12 to 1, it's still a fair enough price for the fact that he ticks so many of the trend boxes. He's going to pop up in one of these races. I'm hoping it's the Northumberland Plate this time round with this trip, just far more suitable for him as well over the 2 miles. So they are our best bets of the weekend. Lads, that wraps up the show. Thank you very much, Sam, for tuning in to join us. Hopefully enjoy the rest of your week off. Rixie, thank you so much for coming back from Royal Ascot Car Parks to actually join us for this show and for surviving. And a big thank you to you, of course, for watching. Best of luck with your bets this weekend, and we'll be back at the same time next Friday to preview the pick of the weekend action.